We have teachers that are not of the same economic strata as the students that they teach, and it doesn't matter whether they're black or white. We have black teachers walking into schools every day who don't have the same economic background as the kids that they are teaching, and they form these kind of bougie, awfulizing attitudes about our kids, just like other teachers do too.
It is Freedom Friday, and you are still not free.
Well, it's Freedom Friday, and you're still not free. But hopefully, you'll be freer after this time. That with Ish and me, we don't have Sharif El-Mekki with us today, but we have a good topic because I'm getting a little bit annoyed with some of the things that I see on TikTok. And I follow educators on TikTok, and they talk a lot about our kids, but they talk about a range of things. What's going on in our schools. The thing that I've noticed that gets under my skin is this kind of anti-black kid narrative that I've seen. It started with one teacher I saw a while back who came on and just said, "Your kids are dumb as hell. I want y'all to know your kids are dumb as hell." And to prove it, he actually filmed himself talking to kids in the classroom without them on camera, so you couldn't see them. But he's asking them questions meant to embarrass them on camera. In my mind, he's asking them about shapes and colors and stuff, and he's doing it to broadcast this on TikTok to you, just to show you how dumb our kids are. And I was so mad about that. What I'm noticing is it's a lot of younger teachers. It's like a lot of 30-ish, 20 something teachers, and it's almost as if it's the first time they've ever encountered a learning challenge within their occupation. This is what they get paid to do, but maybe it's not for them. Anyways, so this one yesterday that I saw is one I want to get your reaction to, Ish, because she got under my skin. Her voicing of it is a little bit different than the other ones. She's a little bit more polished in her speaking than some of the others, but this is a good one, I think, to look at and get your response to, because I had a response. So why don't we play that and see what you think?
Black American boys are in a whole lot of trouble, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with politics. I honestly don't know what the culprit is, but it's not white supremacy. I don't know what the problem is, but this is what I do know. Black American boys, I work in a middle school. And there's so much I can say and I want to say, and I don't know how to say it right now, so maybe I'll try to say it later. But Black American boys do not care about their education. And it's not the parents, before y'all start. I'm telling you right now, there are some parents, mothers and fathers, but mostly mothers, who are extremely concerned about their son's well-being and their success. And what they're having a hard time doing is getting their son to be concerned. Because I'm telling you what happens. No matter how educated the parents are, no matter how involved the parents are, when they drop their kid, their young man, off to school, he is definitely going to be more influenced by his peers. And I watch young Black American boys, and the school I work at is not in the ghetto. It's in the suburbs. I'm across the street from $1 million properties. And when these people drop their young Black man off at school, he is going to be more influenced by his peers than anybody else. And I watch young Black boys tease each other for following the rules. I watch young Black boys tease each other for making good grades. And when I was a kid, I'm 36 years old. When I was a kid, 2 decades ago, we seen the same thing in school. These young men, young Black American men, and I stress that it's young Black American men. I'm going to get back to that in a moment. But they do not care about their education. It is not the parents' fault. It is not the educators' fault. The educators are stretched thin caring about these children. I'm telling you right now, I work with white female educators. They care about these children, but they're perplexed. They don't know what to do to get these little boys to care. But I'm telling you right now, they're doing everything that they can.
See,
I work in the special education department alongside these women, these white female educators. They're not writing these little boys off. I promise you they're not.
All right. I mean, almost can't take any more of that. And she goes on. This is a part of it. She goes on for 7 minutes or more. And the punchline is just basically, it's nothing else except for the boys. There's something wrong with them. What do you think, Ish? This is special education teacher in your school or in your your cadre of teachers. What do you think?
Well, number one, you need not to have your child in a situation with a teacher like that. And you were saying that earlier. But number two, we're talking about children. And there's a reason why children are rejecting what you're doing. And to say it has nothing to do with the white teacher who might be treating the boys as a threat, rather than a boy that might be a little rambunctious and a little bit like not in line. And it might also be a fact that she's pathologizing kind of anti-Black sentiments that are embedded within the very fabric of our society. She's probably been indoctrinated with those views and then is reinforced by what she perceives to see through that lens. Instead of having conversations with these boys probably about what it means to be who they think they are in a society that devalues and dehumanizes them just by the images being portrayed since they're young kids. Everybody sees a third or fourth grade child going to school and the lights in their eyes and everything. And then that light no longer exists after that point. And then you see these so-called achievement gaps start to occur, right, between Black and white children. And I wouldn't contribute it to something inherently deficient of Black boys. I think there's something inherently deficient of the very system in which creates those circumstances where children who are bright, who are capable, who have the potential to really be geniuses and creative folks within our society, and something is snatched out them. Something is dimming the light and of their soul, man. And I think it goes much deeper. And her superficial just looking at the surface layer analysis shows that she don't even read.
I mean, we have a class problem. We have a class problem in education. We have teachers that are not of the same economic strata as the students that they teach, and it doesn't matter whether they're Black or white. We have Black teachers walking into schools every day who don't have the same economic background as the kids that they are teaching, and they form these kind of bougie, awfulizing attitudes about our kids, just like other teachers do too. So the research that I've talked about before, where they asked teachers to look into a classroom and see who was behaving badly, it was the Black teachers and the white teachers who were looking at the Black boys. They used some eye tracking software to see where their eyes were going. That's what the whole test was. And what the test found was even the Black teachers were looking specifically at the Black boys for bad behavior. And there was none, but they still were able to find bad behavior, even though there was none. It was a test and they were set up. And what it showed was they have the same biases. The Black teachers had the same biases that the white teachers have. And I can only attribute that to class. Now, in this clip that we have with her right now, she is a 36-year-old teacher who says that she is married to a man with advanced degrees. She says she grew up in a household with two parents that were both advanced degrees. So she knows what it is to be educated. She obviously has a little bit of that sound to her that lets you know that there is a class difference between her. She also had a really big tell in there. She called them young Black American men. She teaches middle school. She teaches middle school. She's a middle school, at worst, she's a middle school special education teacher at that, right? And she's adultifying these young Black American men as students. There is a problem here, but it is not the kids. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Our kids do come to schools with a range of things going on in their lives and a range of engagement factors and disengagement factors. That's just truth. But I don't see white teachers getting on here talking about how white boys are having problems. And the truth of the matter is all American boys right now are falling behind in reading. They're falling behind in math. They're falling behind in college participation. All boys, all males are. It's a white problem too. But why don't we see anybody coming on and just really haranguing young white boys as something being deficient about them that we just can't figure it out. We just don't know. Anyways, Sharif says it all the time. We don't just want Black teachers. We want conscious Black teachers. And this, for me, looks like a teacher who's educated and not conscious at all about our kids.
Word. And I just think about what Carter G. Woodson wrote about in the miseducation of the Negro. He warned folks of this issue of being so ingrained with the so-called advanced degrees in these institutions and then co-signing their conception of what reality is all about and their conception of education and what should be the focus area. And I think it speaks very clearly, like you see that, one thing folks need to know, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, but even this idea, she probably even thinks of herself as some like ridiculous talented 10th model, even though Du Bois debunked that whole notion early in his life. Well, he lived until 93, but he debunked it. And he even said that's a bunch of nonsense because we'll have a bunch of folks fighting over pieces of pie based in this society, more caring about themselves than caring about the uplift of the people, man. And I taught at schools in Philadelphia where most people wouldn't walk into or thought were dangerous. And these children, I met some of the most brilliant people I have ever met before. Folks just trying to figure it out. And the sad thing about it is nobody even asked them who they are, what they stand for ever in their life. And I got them in high school, man. I've saw children lose their lives, right? I've seen children get caught up in the system. But at the end of the day, that ongoing conversation about how to understand and transverse this reality, that's what should be emphasized, because we ain't giving us our sons the tools necessary to understand that person looks at you as a threat and there's something more deeper. And you need not to rely on what Tupac called hocus pocus, because it is easy to, oh, you scared of me? I'm going to use that power against you. You know what I mean? Or I'm this because that's what I was told in this society I am. And there's no deconstruction of that. Teachers aren't trained in teacher preparation programs to even start broaching what that subject is. Every teacher should be reading Dr. Bobby Wright's The Psychoracial Personality. You know what I mean? Every teacher should have already read Francis Cresswell Singh, The ISIS Papers, and these other psychology books to help us understand kind of like the malaise that is put upon Black children before they even understand what that malaise is all about, if they ever do get a chance to even think or talk about it in the educational setting. And even by that point, most of the time, it's like, you talking about what now?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think should be the preparation for teachers that combats them getting online at 36 years old saying this? Like, how do we correct that?
Well, first, man, like we got to be very honest about the education system is failing our children for the most part, right? And that there are models that do work that we can point to in private schools and Afrocentric schools where children, if you have a classroom of 13 children with a highly qualified teacher that has enough time to prep and also engage in this intellectual endeavor when it comes to education, you produce better results. But also be very purposeful of what angle we're even teaching it. So communal education obviously is much more desirable than this individualistic, rugged nonsense in which all of us are kind of put into in the school situation. I find it real interesting in elementary school. It's like you got to get along with everybody on the playground, and yet you sit in the classroom and you're like, oh, don't worry about them, worry about yourself. And that contradictory kind of concept kind of probably creates some type of like schism where folks are just like, what? This is a bunch of nonsense. Like, and our children sometimes are smart enough to peep game, but not, again, given the tools necessary to understand. So in these teacher education programs, that should be explicitly discussed, regardless of the race of the person in the program, because they have to understand at the very root of this, our society created this issue, and it doesn't have any interest in reconciling it. But if you really care about the students in front of you, especially those Black boys, you need to be not in a paternalistic missionary way, but in a way that meets them where they're at and engages in that two-way street type of conversation and dialogue about what it means to be who you think you are within a society which defines you as something that is not desirable.
One of the things that she said that stuck out to me is this thing about their peer group being very influential to them. And this is Black boys. Of course, their peer group is very influential to them because they are bonding together. They have already figured out over a period of time that they are the other. They have many female teachers. They have many authoritarians who are female in their schools. They have bougie teachers who look at them differently because they're boys and they're Black. They have white teachers that look at them as an other and even study them as an other. If you don't think that there's going to be a response in young Black males from preschool who are getting the signal from preschool that you are different, you are the other. When you do something, we're going to slap your hand a little bit harder. We're going to look at you with a little bit more scrutiny to see if you're doing anything wrong, because you have a tendency to do things wrong, even when you're not. So if you don't think that the response to that is a growing oppositional defiance to the entirety of the system, like wherever they are, yes, you're making them go there every day. You're making them walk in the building every day, but they're corralling together. They're a posse when they are in there because you've made them another. That's why they have a posse. Who the hell doesn't want somebody to be with them, to be down with them, to have their back when you know that the entire rest of the apparatus is not for you? right? I mean, that's just it to me, it's just simple logic. So if I was the person who was seeing that, I would say to myself, oh wow, they really are bonding together a lot. Maybe that's a reaction to the environment that we have put them in. And we have otherized, awfulized, problematized them so much to where they know it, they feel it. It's not as if they don't know the air that they breathe. The air that they breathe is anti-male. It's anti-black male, especially in school settings. So, she has another video. I want to pull that one up too in a second here. So she has another video where she's responding to comments. So people put some comments in her under her video, and one of the comments was, "This is why we need more black male teachers in the classroom." And I want to show you what her response is to the idea that we need more black male teachers. Here it is.
Y'all keep saying we need more black male teachers. We need more black male teachers. We need more black male teachers. Okay, I agree. I don't disagree. We need more black male teachers. The question is, why don't we already have black male teachers? And to those of you, I've heard black men say that teaching doesn't pay enough, but I want y'all to look up the average salary of a teacher in America and then look up the average salary of a black man in America. There's about a $20,000 difference, and guess which one is higher? So that can't be it. I get what y'all are saying. We need more black male teachers, but where y'all at? Why aren't y'all in school to get teacher certifications? Everybody's saying we need more black male teachers, but are adult black men interested in being teachers?
I mean, what can you do, Ish?
The fact that she's doubling down on that nonsense is just silly. Just leave out the fact, and Leslie Fenwick writes about this in Jim Crow's Pink Slip. When you even talk about black educators in general, there was a whole dissolving of that from the very root, from when they integrated schools where black schools and black educators, especially black male educators and administrators, were just laid off or demoted or pushed to the side, right? So that hollowing out was not, almost done since the 1970s and 80s, and folks haven't fully recovered from that. I would also double down and say the negative experience that folks experience at school, it's like, why should I go through and become that, right? And when a lot of brothers do become in the system, they're treated as the person that's going to discipline these kids. This the black child whisperer, and it's like, who wants to do that? You know what I mean? Like it's a lack of respect when you're even in the field. It's even navigating those systems to even get into education as a desirable profession. And that's why the work that Sharif does is so important. We got to bring back the pageantry around it. We need to bring back the honor and how it's important to be a black educator, because all the research shows that all students benefit from a black teacher in the front of the classroom, even if you only get one. And I see that with my own boys, where the relationships that they've built with their black male educators have allowed them to gain a deeper understanding of themselves and navigate this world much more clearly. But if a person's like, oh, I never had a black male teacher, and they never went past high school, it's like, what type of conception of yourself? So this woman, she's like a self-hating, black person on some nut stuff, trying to double down, saying something's wrong with black people. It's not white people. These white women love these black children. It's not white supremacy.
It's not
Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's not that we're in the hood. It's not anything except for the child.
and even just like framing it, we're not in the ghetto, We're not in the ghetto. We're in the suburbs. And it's like, what's wrong with you, man? And half the problem, I would even say, is them boys trying to figure out themselves in a white world like that suburb that she's in, which I could tell you right now, I had that experience, and I just got over that trauma about 5 years ago, and I'm 43, man. Because like the stuff that you get constantly as a child, right? Whether it comes to your looks, whether it comes to the over-sexualization or the adultification of you, and this goes for black girls also, and then just pushed into this thing of saying, you ain't real if you ain't this. And don't get it twisted, them white boys in the suburbs be acting like that too. But that's not talked about. That's them. And then when they grow up, they know that's not them. They know that they were playing an acting role for a little bit to be cool, because black's always cool to a certain point. But what the boys, that's who they are, man. And we don't have those conversations.
I have a couple points to make here. The very first one is if you are a Black teacher and you find yourself on TikTok saying negative things about Black children for the view of everybody that's watching you on TikTok, you need to quit. I'm just gonna be real with you. You need to quit. You're trash. You are absolutely trash. And you need to get out of the classroom. And for parents listening to me right now, I'm just going to tell you straight up, if you are ever scrolling through TikTok and you see a teacher at one of your schools talking about Black boys in the way that she's talking about them and talking about Black men the way that she's talking about them and letting the entire system off the hook, pull your kid. You need to run. You need to get your child into safe harbor. And by safe harbor, I mean into classrooms where people love them, people who identify with them, people who have some background and some training to understand them. The second thing I want to say to these teachers, these educators who get on TikTok and say these nasty things about Black children is why is it that when you make these when you make these comments, tell me why is it that you have so little research that you're putting out in the world? You're supposed to be a teacher. You're supposed to be educating the public. This is an educating medium. You have a platform. Why, when you get a platform, are you saying some of the most anti-research nonsense about Black children? It's because you're trash. And it's because you probably don't even qualify to be the teacher that you think you are. You may have probably just, skated in by the skin of your teeth, because when I listen to you, I know that everybody in my network knows that there's a whole bunch of research about Black boys, and you could be communicating any of that to the public. You could be talking about the fact that they go to schools that have less funding. You could be talking about the fact that the bias starts with them very early in their lives. You could talk about the fact that they are getting assignments and coursework that is 3 grade levels beneath where they need to be. You could talk about why all kids get disengaged. So what's specific about the Black boys when they get disengaged from schools that's different than the white boys when they get disengaged? Because disengagement is a national crisis right now in education. How come you're not talking about it? You need to quit. You need to either quit or you need to spend at least one of your summers shutting up and reading the research and then coming back with a more positive message about the Black boys that you are teaching. Because if you are online saying this nonsense about Black kids, it should be a sign to everybody that you're not ready. You're just not qualified. The second thing I'll say about the Black teacher thing, the Black male teacher thing, what a dismissive way she treated the Black male teacher pipeline problem. Again, it's us that's the problem. It's the Black men just aren't showing up. They're just not showing up. And I mean, where's it at? Okay, so it's almost as if she's divorced by the fact that all across this country, there are pipeline programs for Black male educators to get more of them in the field and recruit more of them in. What Shrifel Mekki, who runs, one of the primary programs nationally, says about this is for a lot of Black men, when you try to get them to teach, they're returning to the scene of a crime, right? And we're looking at the perpetrators of those crimes when I talk about these teachers on TikTok. You are the criminals. You are making it so that Black boys would never want to come back to your feminized, bougie, down the nose environment that hurts them while they're kids. Why would they want to come back? But anyways, listen, if you don't know a thing, then why are you talking? If you don't know what the research says about Black boys, fine. But shut up. If you don't know what the research says about Black male teachers, like how many of them are there, or what programs are trying to get them into the pipeline, who's part of the solution and not just the problem. If you don't know anything about that, shut up. Like, why are you talking? Like, I don't even get it. So, Ish, this might sound mean for me to say this, but what do you think she even thinks, and the other teachers like her, they even think is the utility that they're giving by coming online saying these things? Who is this supposedly helping?
Yeah, for the life of me, I can't figure that out. And I think that I was just thinking the same thing. Like, what's the point of even going on TikTok and saying some nut ass stuff like that? Like, what is the point? What are you trying to accomplish except dragging down Black boys and Black men? And again, back to your point, she was calling these middle school boys Black men. And she's a special education teacher. So I wonder what the proportion of Black boys going to the school that she works in the suburb are represented in those special ed classrooms. And then are those white women teachers she referring to like, oh, well, they won't be able to understand this. And we have, those grade level things. So when you're talking about that, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish? It seems to me, she's just trying to drag Black people down and turn it into like, well, it's an individual situation and something's wrong with our boys, but I'm not going to talk about what needs to be done or if I even have an idea about what that means. It's like tearing folks down for the sake of tearing them down. It's trifling.
The reason I call it problematizing is because it's not solutioning. There's no like, I didn't hear any solution in anything that she was saying. It was just all, hey, let's get together and talk about how bad these kids are. I think I literally just think that that there needs to be a calling on the carpet. This is what I want to. Other thing I want to say to Black parents right now is 50% of our kids are in the suburbs now. Just like she said that she's in a suburban school. Here's the thing that I need you to know: moving your kids out to the suburbs is not the flex that you think it is. If you think that moving out there is going to give you some sort of problem free like educational situation, you better think again. Because if you go out to those suburbs and go on autopilot and think just because you have cleaner facilities and a nicer football field and all that, so that you don't have to really pay attention to whether or not your kids are being treated well, or whether or not their genius is being respected, there's something wrong. I'm telling you, don't do that. Do not do that. It's not the flex that you think it is. You could pay that extra $500,000 on your mortgage, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to be in a world of hurt if you think that that's going to get you a problem-free education for your kids and a fast track to college. Don't fall for it, because what you're going to find in some cases is, hey, maybe it might be better. There might be some more facilities, benefits, and resources, and more programs and all that. It's true. My kids go to a school where they do have access to a lot of things that I'm proud of. I think it's good. We're not in a suburb. We're kind of more in a exurb or a rural area. But, listen, the idea, though, that you can just go to sleep, that's never going to be the case. That's never going to be the case. As a matter of fact, because just like teachers like her, you're going to be putting your kids in the care of teachers where you better be watching out for them. How do they feel about my kid? What do they think about my kid? Would they be on TikTok at night talking about how my kid is so deficient? The last thing I want to talk about quickly ish is jumping into the solution side of things is programs that we have seen that might be promising. If you have this attitude about Black boys, I think your district needs to be doing something specific and special for these boys that are getting so smeared by these educators. The one I'll just point out quickly is the one that a lot of people know about already, which is the Kingmakers in Oakland. And after that Kingmakers, there's been, even here in Minneapolis, we have an Office of Black Male Achievement. And of course, those are the first things you cut when you have budget cuts. So y'all got to stop doing that in school districts. But what else have you seen to be proactive about how educators and districts challenge themselves with the Black male problem?
Well, I can tell you right now, I've seen things in districts of CTE programs, for teacher preparation programs, for Black males to be exposed to the idea of taking teaching as the profession, not just in the K through 12 space, but in the pre-K space, by having them actually intern at child cares and learn certain skills that could be marketable. So like one of those things could be very much clear, like, you can make this much money while becoming a teacher, and here's the way to do it, and then produce the situations where you have positive experiences on that path. All mentorship programs. There was a program that I was involved in called COSPOC, a program very successful that got cut. But in that program, it was just for boys, black and brown boys, but mostly Black boys. And in this space, you did cultural kind of rites of passage type activities with one another, along with political education, along with kind of socializing with one another in a healthy environment, which sometimes is not even available for our Black children in schools or even out of schools. And then having that adult leadership of kind of mentoring and being an example of something that the boys can achieve themselves. I've seen those things work fantastically. Even just a connection to kind of the Africanness, the spiritness that's associated with being part of something larger that isn't defined here. This society, it like goes out of its way to make sure that our children don't get that knowledge. So I think any program that emphasizes that and puts children in the position to think about education as a really real choice to pursue in their lives. I can tell you right now, my sons are annoyed with me every time we have a discussion about what they want to do in the future. And my wife's annoyed with me too. They're like, well, what about teaching? And my wife's like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
But like, that is real, man. Like, we have to start being positive, contributors to a conversation that uplifts the potential and even the benefit of having Black boys in such positions. And the work, again, that Sharif's doing through the Center of Black Educators development is so clutch because they're offering scholarships for children to attend colleges. They're offering opportunities, professional developments, even to attend conferences and participate in these ongoing dialogues. I think all those type of things have to happen, and it's on us, right, as adults, to really take on that responsibility and not shy away from it. And I think no matter what your positionality is, whether you just around the way and you are an electrician, or you deliver newspapers. I'm dating myself when I say that because I don't know how much that happens anymore. But you should be involved in that process of being a positive example of Black manhood, and not allow Black manhood to be reflected and defined by this society's lens, because you're not reflecting Black manhood. You're reflecting white supremacy in the Black face. And I think that's what that woman is. And she's trash and garbage for it. And I hope that she sees this and makes a TikTok video showing how ignorant she really is, because it'd probably be reduced to just simply talking smack rather than to the whole point of what's the point of even saying what you're saying right now? You think that's going to cause anybody to create any solutions to the issue, or you just talking smack?
Well, I mean, if you're a teacher, you have to think about your scope and your sequence and your curriculum and your tools and all that. So to me, it feels a little bit irresponsible to put a message like that on the world. Like, what thinking did you do? Like, what did you expect people to learn? What was your outcome? Listen, don't get me out here acting like I know anything about teaching, but what was your rubric? I want to know, like, what that was supposed to happen with that TikTok. Was anybody supposed to feel better about Black men or Black boys or Black children and Black students? What was the goal? I'll say two things. I'll say one thing, and then I do have one final question for you. I'll wrap on. The first thing that I'll just say is the best event that I attend every year that has anything to do with education is the Center for Black Educator Development's annual get together that they have. This year had over 1,300 Black males in Philly coming together at a hotel. And every year, it's one of the most fun events that I have, because you see so many brothers in one place who are committed, who are educated, who know what they're talking about. This isn't like a bunch of conjecture and like opinions. This is people that are in the actual classroom, and in some cases running schools, and training teachers. But it's something the public doesn't see. She didn't see this. She doesn't know what this looks like. She doesn't know what a room like this looks like, full of Black male teachers who all are from different backgrounds, and some coming as far as Germany. Last year at the event, there was people from Germany there, like I think 4 or 5 brothers from Germany. Listen, right? Isn't that remarkable? Like, 1,300. First of all, anywhere we get 1,300 Black men, period, together who are there because they care about our children, that should be the story. That should be the clip. That should be the TikTok. The TikTok should be, listen, stop saying that something isn't happening just because you don't know that it's happening. Black men are coming to the table. They are working on the pipeline problem. Yes, it's only 2% of teachers are Black males. And yes, there are so many schools, I want to say it's 40% or more, have 0 teachers of color in them. Yes, it's a problem. But it doesn't mean that when you become a teacher of color that you should turn on the camera, get on TikTok, and start acting as if none of this good work is happening, right? Just because you don't know about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. I would encourage you to educate yourself before you start trying to educate the public and educate our children. The last thing I'll say to you, Ish, you're a good one to throw this out to, is we're both fathers. My kids are not the same. They're different. I've got one kid that is on autopilot, man. Let me tell you, this kid went out and we didn't give him his schedule. He got himself a full schedule of all the most rigorous classes, all AP advanced placement classes in things that I can't help with. I have no idea, like, listen, stats and calculus and all these things. I didn't even know it. Right. I didn't have nothing to do with that. I'm not pushing him to do it. That's not my thing. Listen, you do you, right? Because you go and take them stats classes, you bring something home. Don't ask me nothing. Don't ask me a thing. And then, I have another one who just told me straight up, I do not like school. I do not like going there. As a matter of fact, it's torturous just for me to be there every day. And, he wanted more of a hybrid schedule. So Now he does half of the day at home and half of the day at school. It's like a hybrid schedule, and that gives him the peace of mind. He knows he's only going to be there at that building, and he can keep his energy up till like noon, and then he comes home and does the rest at home, and that's been a good payoff. But like she was saying, she's college educated. Her husband is college educated. So her kid is in a college educated school. And that doesn't mean that you're still not going to have some issues. I'm having issues in this one way because my kids are different. What do you have seen with you have a son, just like I have sons. What have you had to pay attention to in terms of making moves and getting your son an education so that it's right, like you get the right fit?
Oh no, that's real. And I co-sign. They're all different, man. I have four boys. One's actually going to be graduating this year, which
Wow.
is nutty.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nutty.
And they all go to four different schools.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is the part of the nature of the beast. One thing that I found though, especially with the younger ones, that sending them to an Afrocentric school at a young age lays a foundation that allows them to kind of combat some of the nonsense of that a lot of their peers get involved in. So my oldest son, who we didn't send, and I've mentioned this before, to an Afrocentric school when he was younger, he's the one that struggles the most academically. But at the same time, throughout time, we have, have reinforced and gone over and over again through, family discussions, and even when his brothers talk to him about these type of things, that he's starting to grasp a deeper understanding. And since so he is going to go to college now. At one time, he told us he had no interest and that he disliked school. You know what I mean? He got bullied by other children for his locks, and that happened to his younger brothers. One of them started like choking a kid out. I don't, we had to take him out of that circumstance, but like that speaks to the differing kind of personalities and the importance of giving them a solid foundation rooted in self-pride and Black pride of themselves. So even now, our 16-year-old who actually goes to a private school out in the suburbs while we still live in the city, is wrestling through that, even with the Black peer group there. He's like slightly disgusted, like they ain't about Black life, like he's like pulling their cards, but he's still trying to navigate that because he's a good kid, he's a nice guy, and he doesn't want to, alienate other people. But when when he comes home, we are engaging purposefully in conversations about navigating that space. And I wonder how many Black parents, are doing that with their boys when they're coming home from certain circumstances. And if you're not, you're doing them a disservice. So I just want to reinforce that foundational element is so important. And that once you get to that foundational level, that should encourage an ongoing dialogue with your child about how they're making sense of the world.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. It's just for everybody listening to this. If you have a Black boy, this has been an episode about Black boys, specifically about the way educators can look at them sometimes the wrong way, and also about the fact that as parents, you got to make moves sometimes. You got to just pay attention. So Ish, I mean, you're an educator. You are in the district already, and you have a wife there who is deeply involved with you and as a partner, as a team, and you're a family, and you still have to make moves. You still have to be watching this. Someone could look at you and say, well, it should be easy for you. I mean, you're an educator, like you ain't gonna never face no problems, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like, listen, I don't want anybody to take any message from this other than you better be watching. I don't care who you are. You could be two lawyers in a household thinking you moved out to the suburbs and you got the money. You're the Jeffersons, moving on up to the east side, whatever. And you can still have problems. You can still have problems. Actually, I shouldn't say you could. I just think you should act like it's a given that you're going to have to every year assess, adjust, and make a decision. Are we sticking with what we have right now, or we're not? And just
Exactly.
make that a part of your practice, parenting practice. Just make that part of your practice. So anyways, this has been another episode of Freedom Friday. And you're still not free, but hopefully you're freer after this time you spent with Ish and me. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you guys for watching.